Hi there, this is Helen Tarrant again from LA. Here with our whole team. Wow, it's massive. Welcome to another episode of Commercial Property Roadshow. You're here with Helen Tarrant, and today I'm actually going to talk about something that's really interesting, and it is about when to walk away from your commercial property deal. Now, the market is crazy and it is frantic out there, but the question keeps asking, people get into deals and then they realize, they go through due diligence and they realize that the deal just isn't stacking up either in returns or things are being blown out of proportion, and then we're looking at it going, well, when should we walk away from this deal? Is it that because the pest and building came back bad, or is it because the outgoings were misrepresented, or is it that it said it had a development potential and now it doesn't? But the thing is, we may have wasted a month, sometimes even 3 months on the deal, and now we come to nothing, and we've spent $10,000, $15,000, all these reports and reviews and all these things, and ultimately we end up with nothing, and then we're emotionally attached. So when do we walk away from a commercial property deal? Now, this is really important, because get it wrong and you kick yourself, and get it right, you have all to gain. See, the thing is, if you walk away from a deal and someone else took it over and did the hard, and picked up on your hard work and then capitalized on it, you will kick yourself for it. So if you lost the deal because you're trying to get the every last dollar out of it, and you end up losing it over $10,000 or $20,000, then that is when you kick yourself. Or alternatively, you get in and you realize that even though it might be an off-market deal, or it might be a deal that seemed good, but it ended up being like lower yield than you thought, and then the potential, you couldn't capitalize on it, and you didn't walk away, then you're suffering from it later on. Look, I've had that mistake. I made that mistake when I first started investing in commercial property. I could have done my due diligence better. And obviously I'm paying for that in the future. And that's what happens. Like, mistakes in commercial sometimes don't happen the first 6 months, but may happen, later on down the track, when it comes to things like capital works and potential that you need to realize. So you don't want to be left holding a white elephant. So this is where I'm going to tell you some key points about when to walk away from the deal. So when we're doing due diligence, obviously we check all the outgoings, we check everything else. But the number one point when we tell our clients to walk away from the deal is where the capital cost does not add any more benefit to the value or the tenant internally. Okay, so let's, for example, say that you are doing the due diligence on a property and everything stacks up except that it needs the roof being replaced, like in the next, say, 24 months, sometimes within the next 12 months. And that, if you're buying a strip shop or something like that, could be anywhere from $50,000, $70,000 to $150,000. Now, this is where you will obviously go back for renegotiation, but a lot of vendors are not going to cut $50,000, $70,000 or $150,000 off the purchase price. So you're left holding whether you should go ahead or not. In this situation is the time we tell you this is the time to walk away. While you would, obviously, once you put a roof on that property, you're going to have 30 years of trouble-free roofing and issues and making a tenant happy. The $100,000 you're about to spend on a roof does not and will not equate to a rise in rent or how the value of the property. Your property is not going to gain value by $100,000 just because you spent it on the roof. So therefore, in that situation, you could do better by finding a property where you didn't have that roof issue. The only caveat to that is if you own a roofing company, and that you can do it for cheap and it's a write-off for you. So, but failing that, any other thing, that is the time one of those capital costs you have to walk away. Number two, structural issues that cannot be solved easily. So if there's major structural issues that you can't just quickly underpin and create other footings or anything else that can be solved within a small amount of money, and I mean small amount of money, say that you're buying property for $1 million or $2 million, that you can't solve for, like, say $20,000, $30,000, and that you need to be spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, so above $50,000, $70,000 to do it, then that's another thing to walk away from. That, along with things like concrete cancer and stuff like that, unless of course you are in the business. So, or the vendor is willing to take that off from the purchase price, or at least meet you significantly more than halfway for it. That is when you walk away, because by doing that, you're spending money and it's going to cost you more to maintain that property than what you have in the long term as well. So that is definitely another point. The other thing to consider is where where you have outgoings that is going to be exponentially great into the future. So I'm not talking about how you might looking at rates notices, and that in certain areas like ACT, even in areas like regional Queensland, where the rate notice are higher than potentially somewhere in Sydney or Melbourne and things like that. And that's because there's less people there, but there's a certain upkeep that they need to do. So in that sense, if say it's $7,000 for rates for a year, and normally you would be paying $5 in somewhere like Sydney, or even $10,000 in ACT when you pay something like $5 in Sydney, that is fine if you know that's going to be what it is going forward every year, and that it's only indexed by CPI. But where it goes from, and I've seen this where land value jumps significantly, and your tenant's on a gross lease, meaning that they're not paying outgoings, that you have, you're paying $2,500, 2 years ago, and all of a sudden becomes $5. And then the projection is that it will become, $4, and it's going to be, it's going to continue to grow. That is where you realize that your margin is actually shrinking, and that's where the deal is not stacking up as well. From there, also, there's certain things where certain clients will affect your insurance policy. If your insurance policy spikes really highly and cannot be brought down because of things that's going to happen, and there's no way to really reduce it, then that's also a way to walk away, especially if it's gross lease and your tenant is not going to be taking care of the outgoings. If your tenants are taking care of the outgoings, that's fine. There's no issues with that. But the main thing is about the outgoings out of control and not controllable in the future for you, so that for you the holding cost is too much. So those are the points. Where you don't walk away from a deal is that you do not walk away where you're negotiating over $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 of works the vendor can do, and these are not structural works but minor works that you can do. So replacing parts of the bathroom or even a whole cabinet, getting some slight waterproofing done, or fixing a slight leak, things like maybe a rot in the window, or even sometimes to just get a compliance done on like a mezzanine floor, which may cost you 20 grand, but could add substantial value because it's more lettable area. So you always got to look at what you're getting in return for what you're laying out. And the whole thing is a balancing act. And when we do due diligence and we come to the end of our due diligence, our team come together with our clients and we make a call of, is it worth to walk away or is it worth to stick to the deal? Most of the time we stick to the deal, or we find a way to negotiate. But there are certain things where we do tell our clients, absolutely, it's the right time to walk away. But for many clients, they don't walk away because by then they've spent let's say a month looking for a property. They've negotiated on 3 or 5 properties, got one property, and then spent 30 days negotiating it, and also spending money on getting the finance approved. And all of a sudden they're left with going, well, all I have to do is pay an extra $50K, why not, and just close the deal. But that is not the point. It is about what you can get in terms of longevity into the future. And it's all about protecting your assets and growing your assets. So again, if you are looking for a company who can help you do that, who can absolutely grow your asset and grow your wealth in the fastest possible way, and is not transactional and is there to support you and grow with you, connect with me at helentarrant.com. Reach out to me by clicking on the link below to booking for a strategy call, or email me at helen@commercialpropertycashflow.com.au. So I hope this has been helpful to pinpoint some of the areas. Always look at what you're outlaying and what is in the future potential of, and what is the return you're getting directly, or maybe 10, 12 months down the track, and also 24 months. So always look at capital costs and also incentives for clients, because I'm always be happy to give incentives to tenants coming into the property over doing capital works. I would outlay an incentive to a client any day over capital works. So don't forget, there's many ways to skin a cat, or many ways, or road leads to Rome, how you can negotiate a deal. So if you are getting tripped up or worried and you're in the middle of due diligence and you're in the deal by yourself and you're not sure, reach out to me again, helentarrant.com, and I look forward to helping you in your commercial property journey. So until next video, bye for now and keep hunting.